Hey guys, and welcome to another very exciting episode of the Team Lead Talks podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Becker in Alexandria, Virginia. On today's episode, I have not one, but two of Wave Realty's owners, team leaders, Tyler Wilson and Austin Pitts. Welcome, you two.
What's going on?
Hey guys. So, if one of you can, I'll ask Austin to
We're located in
give us a
Austin,
little
Texas.
bit of a background of Wave, where you
Been
are
here
in
for the last-
Texas,
we
what you
started
do,
our
and then we'll
company 2
really
years
dive into
ago.
this.
Tyler and I just started this brokerage to flip houses mainly. We also do some PPC ads and wholesale properties as well to our trusted investor group. And yeah, we just kind of have a little bit of flexibility to do some traditional real estate. Like I said, we flip houses and do a little bit of wholesaling on the side as well.
Awesome. And Tyler, how did you all come to be, the Tyler and Austin team here in Texas? Can you give us a little bit of that backstory here?
Yeah, Austin and I come from different backgrounds. He's from the hospitality. I used to sell elevators. He came down to Austin before I did. We kind of both joined New Western around the same time. I did a little bit after him. So we kind of learned the business, from the ground up through wholesaling.
Yeah.
And really got to know Austin together. We kind of grew up here in Austin and not grew up, but on the water. And, we used to surf together. So yeah, we bonded that friendship through New Western. And then as time went on, we decided, hey, it's time to do our own thing. So yeah, we started Wave Realty Group, and hence Wave Realty comes from the waves of the water.
I never knew that before. That's very cool. So you guys both, I never knew that you sold elevators. That's super interesting, Tyler. But how did
For
you
me,
guys
it
make
was,
the
I
transition
just
to
saw a Facebook
hospitality
post,
elevator salesman
from someone
into
from
wholesaling at the
another
prior
wholesale
company? Like, what
a
drew
larger
you
wholesale
towards real
company, and
estate?
they were hiring, and I was just kind of like, hey, I'm going to go check this out. I think I knew a couple people in the business, and literally that next week, I had I started getting my real estate license and started uh, in 2015, actually in the Fort Worth, Dallas market. And then about a year later, I moved to Austin and just haven't looked back. I think skills that you get from the hospitality industry, dealing with people, a little bit of sales, just being someone that someone can talk to and kind of easygoing and stuff like that, kind of really translated well into wholesaling and getting to know buyers and sellers and stuff like that.
Right. And Tyler, the
That was
only
pretty good.
connection I can make between elevator sales and real estate sales is both have its ups and downs, right?
I've heard that one before.
I thought that was
For
pretty
me.
good. But you've heard it before?
No, it was good.
That's the
Yeah,
first time I've ever
heard
heard
that
it. I
joke
like
in,
it.
in different genres of
Okay.
you can use your imagination. But no, when I was
Thinking on the fly. Thinking on the
yeah,
fly.
yeah. No, I was living in Newport Beach, and to be honest, I followed a girl out here. I met her, and she was already planning on going out to Austin. I've never been to Austin before, so I was, single, ready for a new adventure. World is my oyster kind of type attitude, and I had the mentality of like, let's just go out and try it. Worst thing can happen is I go back to, my other job. So I had a buddy actually in where'd Austin go, but we'll
I
just keep
don't
going.
know.
I
Let's
think
just
his
keep
service was
rolling.
pretty spotty actually.
Yeah. We'll keep going.
So I had a buddy who was working for the LA office for New Western, and I went out to dinner with him. He's like, because I was telling him I was coming out to Austin. He's like, um, there's a New Western office that just opened up a couple years ago in Austin. I was like, oh, interesting. So when I came out here, I did a ride along, kind of went out and explored that office, explored the city. I was maybe 3-4 hours away from the nearest lake in Newport Beach, and I love lakes. I'm a beach guy, but I prefer the wave to be consistent rather than trying to catch the wave and ride it for like 3 seconds.
Okay.
So that was a main attraction for me. Lake Austin was a lot of fun to be on. And so, yeah, I took that risk. I started working on my real estate license while I was still living in California, and then followed my now wife out here. Fast forward, 2 kids later, and yeah, the rest is history. So it was a fun journey. Drove out here with all my belongings in the back of my Honda Accord at the time, and yeah, haven't really looked back. I mean, it's been definitely a fun ride.
Yeah, definitely. I was going to ask you what happened to the girl, but I guess you already answered that for us.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the girl it was the right move. I think even if it didn't work out, I probably would have stayed here for a little longer.
Yeah, unless you kept running into each other and,
Yeah, then that
but
wouldn't have been fun.
yeah,
Yeah.
you don't have
No
to
one,
worry
no
about
one
that
wants to
anymore.
run into their ex.
Right. Yeah, that's the worst, right? Well, let's talk about your real estate, your new company. So you got training, worked there for years at your prior company in the wholesale world, but then let's talk about Wave. So Austin kind of alluded to you flip, you wholesale, you do a whole bunch of stuff, but what's your business model?
Yeah.
Can you run us through that?
So, when I left, I already had my broker's license. Austin was moving back from actually Pittsburgh. He was running a shop for New Western and Pittsburgh. We really wanted to create something that we had the flexibility to do within the real estate world, right? Whether it's wholesaling, which is our, 80, 70, 80% of our business most of the time, but it depends, right? So, we really needed to find leads, quality leads, whether it was people who wanted to sell properties, on the market and they needed a traditional listing agent, or they wanted a cash offer. So we wanted to be the brokerage that said, hey, we can provide you with this cash offer. You can close in 2 weeks, take it or leave it. We'll flip it. We'll sell it to one of our investors. I'll hold it. We'll do whatever we want to do with it, but this is your cash offer. So if they say no to that, then we can pivot and say, well, great. I'm a broker. We can list your property for a discounted fee for 2%. And we'll throw this thing on the market and we'll get it sold for you. So take your pick. And then if they say, hey, the cash offer is too low and I already have a real estate agent that I work with, then we go to plan B. Okay, you want to rent it out? We can property manage it for you, So we just kind of go down the line and try to help them as best we can, and having the flexibility of other agents bringing them on too, and showing them that, hey, you don't have to just wholesale here. You can flip, you can do it. So for prime example, I'm leading into another story, but Austin can tell you about a deal that we acquired in Dallas actually, and one of our agents that just started with us, little less than a year ago, no real estate background whatsoever. And he can kind of tell you what happened with that one, and that was a prime example of being creative.
Yeah, I think Austin would love to hear that story. I think what you're getting to, though, guys, is you have the ability to keep the solution for the homeowner or home seller in house. And that is a massive competitive advantage to, you know, just a residential team, just a wholesale team, like having the ability to say, hey, here's an offer, keeping it in your back pocket, or we can list it, we can do this, we can do that without having to worry about letting go of the reins and having to worry about like what the whoever it is you referred it to
Yeah, and
is doing with it. You keep it in house and
Tyler might have
yeah,
already mentioned it, but I got disconnected somehow. But it's being the
we
easy
know.
button for people, right? Like just showing up to an appointment with sellers and saying, "Hey, we have multiple exit strategies for you. Let's find one that fits the best and figure out a solution and get this resolved." That's all. That's all it is at the end of the day, is just finding solutions for people.
Yeah, I mean, that's all it is. And if you can keep that in house, the homeowner is going to appreciate that as well, because then you can kind of test the waters with the listing, see what they get. But then if they really are in a bind, the offer that you provide them can get them out of jail free faster if necessary. So that's great. But Austin, would love to hear this story
Yeah,
that
yeah. We
Tyler
had
was talking about.
a gentleman start with us. I think he played soccer with Tyler, had zero real estate experience, and we just kind of brought him in here, sat him down. He kind of got to hear how Tyler and I worked the phones. We taught him how to find investors, how to sell deals, stuff like that. We contracted a deal in Dallas, which is only a few hours away. That's my hometown, anyways. I got some boots on the ground over there. I had an agent that sent us a deal. I knew it was in a great area. I knew the price point was great. It was super attractive. It was like in the mid 100s, and we couldn't find a buyer for it. But our agent believed in the numbers and believed in the deal enough. He actually called one of his old buddies, an old boss of his actually, and said, "Hey, I got this really good deal. I remember a long time ago you said you'd be interested in investing in real estate. I think this one makes sense." So they essentially partnered on the deal. His buddy was the money, and then our agent basically managed the remodel, and then actually listed it as well in Dallas. And I think in a turnaround time of less than 2 months, they got it remodeled, listed on market, and he's already pending right now for a huge profit for actually a phenomenal profit. We had him listed probably a little aggressive, but still slightly under market, and he got an offer that's pretty close to asking. So he's super happy, super pumped. And I think it was only 4 days active. So
Awesome.
it's just cool to see that happen. Like, it's something that you preach to your agents. Hey, this is attainable. This is something that anyone can do. And then for him to actually do it and be successful with it, obviously, he still needs to close. But I mean, the proof is in the pudding, sort of.
Yeah, Tyler, how important is that? Especially like we had talked a couple days ago about, you guys are expanding, wanting to grow your team. How important is it for a prospective new team member to come into an operation like that where like kind of can, figure out what works the best way for anyone to get to the closing table?
Yeah, I mean, really, a lot of these agents that come in, I always preach like, look, real estate can provide what you put in. And if you keep an open mind, you have to be creative in this space, especially in the market right now. It's like if you're a one-trick pony and you're just going to try to find, traditional listings and you're going to run open houses and you're just going to think like a normal traditional agent, you're going to get the same feedback that you're getting from all these other agents, which is negativity right now. But what I see is opportunity because prices are low. So you got to think like an investor. You got to, do the research, and you got to convince somebody to take a bigger risk than other people are willing to do. So he took that risk. He convinced someone with a little bit of cash to dive in, and there are deals out right now. You just got to be savvy enough to be open to the fact that, hey, maybe this can be worked a little bit differently. So another example is like I've got some of these, some of my investors that I've worked with, and they like to buy and hold, and they'll pass on a few deals here and there, but then once in a blue moon, they'll find a deal that they don't want to manage the rehab themselves. So I'll go ahead and say, hey, you know, let's buy this property. I'll manage the rehab for you, and then once you're done with it, I'll just manage the rental for you as well. So it's kind of like a hands-off type situation, but that's what you really have to do. You have to put the white gloves on right now, and you got to paint the picture for them from start to finish and tell them how it's going to work out. And once you do that one time, they're hooked because they're going to be like, they trust you from then.
Yeah, it's kind of a know, like, and ultimately trust relationship that you're building. You bring an idea, you see it through, and they're like, damn, Tyler and Austin really know what they're doing. Next time they bring me a deal, I'm going to start to pay attention to it because they get like developers, flippers, whoever get deals. I'm sure they're saturated. The developers we got will get deals that we owned from other people. That's how crazy it can be, but you got to prove yourself. And it's funny, like, well, maybe not funny, but it is. Tyler, you had made a comment about like there are people out there that are like, oh, the market sucks. There's no inventory. You can't get a deal. I think it is what you said. Like, it's just the missing creativity part. Cause I also talked to you guys and you're like, we're doing a lot of deals. I talked to people that close 8 deals in a week. And then there's some people saying there aren't deals out there, but it's really the ones that say, okay, traditional ways of doing this aren't working. How can I think outside the box? And how can I add lines of revenue? How can I start wholesaling? How can I start flipping? How can I start doing this? That's an important aspect of this. Like, it's like you either die or you figure it out and pivot and you continue to grow. And that's what you guys have been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, we really have. I mean, we even been dabbling in hard money, we've been using the funds that we've built, to fund other deals to create income that way. So yeah, you mentioned streams of income. I've always preached that. It's like real estate can provide you with multiple streams of income, but you have to tap into them. You can't just do one because you're just kind of be stuck in that one lane. And it's a market that it's gonna I see a ton of opportunity. It's kind of like an upswing. We had such a big upswing in 2020 2021 that people were just like, Austin's the next tech hub. Everybody's moving here and everyone was gung-ho, and I think we kind of hit so high so quickly that we fell as hard. It's kind of like a stock that just launches into the sky and then it's going to fall. But now that we've kind of leveled out, it's going to gradually slowly make its way back. And I think now's the right time to definitely buy if you're in the market in Austin. You understand that market.
Right.
So we'll
Yeah.
see.
Austin, let's talk about the market there. We know wholesaling has its ups and downs, real estate has its ups and downs, but what are you guys seeing in terms of like your statewide kind of metrics or what's happening, and then compared to what you all are
Yeah, I
doing?
mean, traditionally, it's everyone's been saying it's a buyer's market, and I think that's pretty accurate. Just from the houses that we flip or remodel or buy, close on, and put back on market, we're getting beat up a little bit once we go under contract and drug through the mud just a little bit because the buyers know that hey, I can ask for concessions, I can ask for repairs, I can get all these different types of contingencies because quite frankly they might not get another offer, for 3, 4, 5 weeks. So you know we're not super motivated to just play hardball with these folks and say, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're not going to do this. We try and find a middle ground somewhere, while we're under contract because we don't want to go back on market, right? We want to do everything we can to get these properties sold. And kind of what I've been preaching too is, we're not necessarily hitting home runs on all of our flips, but we're definitely getting base hits, right? We're hitting doubles, hitting triples, getting properties moved, and that's kind of what you have to do is just keep moving and just keep trucking. But yeah, I mean, it's like I touched on. It's definitely a buyer's market, and that's why Tyler said it's definitely a good time to buy because you can be picky. You can ask for things where you know outside of price reductions, you can ask for things that you couldn't normally ask for in a hot market, right? Like if you want them to change, the paint, the interior paint color, something crazy. You can get kind of creative as a buyer and say, hey, I want this. I'm looking for this. I don't want this. I think it is a good time to buy for sure.
Very cool. So, guys, let's talk about you mentioned kind of what you do or how you do it, but let's talk about the flow of a lead when it comes in. How do you all make a decision of what pathway? Because you mentioned a lot of them, Tyler, earlier, but like walk us through your mentality. And every business model is different, right? But a lead comes in, like, what are your checks and balances? Walk us through what you actually do with it, how you determine like which makes the most sense. And then ultimately, what you're going to buy it yourself, flip it, or wholesale it, or list it. Okay. Oh, we lost them again.
Lost them again.
Nice.
Well, can I give you some credit about Brighter or what? Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah, I mean PPC. It's we've talked about this a lot before, but we handle your PPC, so you can talk about that. But okay, so we send you a lead. What
Yeah.
what happens thereafter?
Yeah, that lead comes in, and the first thing I look at is when it was built. Because if it was built in 2022, it's like, oh, well, this thing's out the window. If it was built in 2020, maybe we have a shot, but most likely because if they bought it in 2020, they might have a little bit of equity. But really, I'm looking for some of the older properties, right? Built in 1990 and beyond, right? And then I'll just kind of see if it's on market. If it's on market, then we know, okay, we're dealing with a different beast. We have to, since I'm a licensed broker, I've got to contact the agent and say, hey, your client is reaching out for cash offers. Were you aware of this? And they usually say, oh yeah, they told me they were going to reach out for cash offer, and say, well, I'll let you, just to let you know, I'm a licensed broker and this is kind of where we're at. Can you fill them in? Or do you want me to talk directly to them? Sometimes they're like, yeah, we just deal with them. Like they're sometimes just exhausted from being on the market and they just want it moved. So those kind of leads. And then the other leads are off market. This is our bread and butter, right? Off market, 1990 and beyond. The seller, when I call instantly, they pick up and they're ready. And they say, yeah, I want to sell within a month. I've just inherited this property. Another telltale sign of just being like, oh, this is gold.
Urgent, yeah,
Another
high
one is,
intent.
yeah, another one is, hey, it needs a lot of work, come check it out, and I want to set that appointment. I want to get in front of them because I think Austin and I have talked about this before. We look back on all the properties that we've contracted. I would say 90% of them, we've had to set the appointment and get in front of the seller. The other ones that we try to lock up over the phone, there's been some good ones when they're just like, this is my number, take it, and I run comps and I'm like, yeah, we'll take it. And I send it while they're on the phone, and I don't get off the phone until they sign it, as long as they're comfortable with moving forward like
Let's
that.
talk about that, Tyler, because that is an advanced strategy. There's a lot of that goes into that, but can you walk us through like why, how important it is to not get them off the phone while you have them?
Gosh, well, you're trying to create a personal relationship with them over the phone and just let them know that you're a normal person. You're a normal person with a family. You have a job, and this is your job, and you take it seriously. But you're easy. You're trying to be their friend. at the same time, but you're trying to be professional. So being on the phone with them, you're just trying to coach them through and hold their hand, because a lot of these people don't know what they're doing. They know they have a specific number in mind, and if they can get that number and you can make them feel more comfortable with you, depending on what they've even been told before, they're going to go with you, even if it's $5, 10, $15,000 lower than the other person, because they don't know what's in these other contracts. A lot of times when I say, hey, I'm a licensed broker, these contracts that I'm sending are, Trek promulgated contracts. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is a real contract. I didn't make this up. I didn't go on Chat GPT and create a contract. This is a real contract. I'm going to send earnest money to title, and I'm going to walk you through every step of the way. Earnest money, option money, if you're in an HOA, when you get HOA docs, all that. So they really feel like, oh, Tyler gets me. He understands this process. He knows what he's doing. He can get me my money. He can get it to me within the time frame that I'm asking. And he has other options, because I let them know. I say, look, if I'm not going to buy this, Austin and I, if we don't want to flip this, if we don't want to buy and hold it, maybe there's another strategy. And we work with a lot of other investors in mind that might want to partner with us. So we're going to exhaust all of our options during our option period, and we're going to make sure that we get this thing to the closing table. Now, there is a small chance that the price that you're asking for is a little bit too high, and we'll come back and have that honest conversation with you and say, hey, look, Janet, this isn't going to work because of XYZ. So really, the importance of keeping them on the phone is, if you let them get off the phone, they're going to go talk to somebody else, and someone's going to be chirping in their ear and singing sweet nothings to them. So we want to keep them in our lane as much as possible until that contract's executed, so that way we can get the deal done.
Yeah, Tyler, I love hearing that the expectations you kind of walk them through aren't hidden, right? You're honest and open. I think there are a lot of bad actors out there sometimes that won't even bring up the fact that, they're not the real buyer, right? That they're going to wholesale it. So there's a monumental shift in the trust that gets built if you just tell them up front, so they don't get shocked at the closing table or shocked to hear that someone else reached out to them. How important is that in the trust building
Oh, yeah.
relationship part of things?
They can sense, if you're being honest with them or not. And we just like to keep it as transparent as possible, because all the hidden stuff, they don't like it. They don't want to go down a road that they're not comfortable with, and then also get surprised. So we like to tell them exactly how it goes up front, so that way they feel like, okay, yeah, Tyler may wholesale my property, but at least, and they don't even know what wholesale means. They just think it's investors or partners or whatnot. But there are some sellers that may have some experience in this field, and they're right away talking about, oh, are you going to wholesale it? And I say, well, let's talk about it. What are your worries with me partnering with these investors that I work with, on a daily basis, right? There's not a worry, as long as I can get it to the closing table. That's the biggest thing, and that's what I'm trying to coach them through and make them feel comfortable.
Yeah, you're almost educating them on your process, and I truly believe it makes you seem more professional.
Hmm.
Makes you seem like you're not trying to hide anything, because you're not. You're just being open and honest, saying, we buy a lot of properties. Sometimes we literally cannot afford to flip them all. But we have this partner network of other people
Transparency
who
is
can
huge.
afford to flip them. But at the end of the day, it's just important. You
I
need to
said
sell the home.
transparency
We
is
can make
huge.
that happen for you.
Yep.
Sorry? Yeah, yeah. It's a big part. And unfortunately, it's some people out there aren't as transparent as they should be. And that's when like this type of real estate transaction gets a bad name. But you guys are doing it the right way, being super transparent about everything and making them feel absolutely 100% comfortable with the transaction. At the
Hmm.
end of the day, they want to sell their home. Most of the time, when they want to sell it quickly, it's because they're in some sense of urgent situation or scenario that they have to get rid of it to get that liquidity out of it. But I love that approach. Guys, let's talk about, well, I guess, Tyler, we got to the point where you were, still trying to figure out if there was a deal to be had and then what type of deal. But like, what's the Austin and Tyler buy box criteria of like, okay, I have a house. I submitted a lead to you online. You got it. You talked to me. The numbers work, Austin.
I mean, it really just
Where do you
depends
kind of
on what
like
we
low
have on our
hanging
plate
fruit?
at
We'll
that
take this
time.
one for ourselves and flip it or wholesale it.
Honestly,
Like, how do you
we've
determine
bought
that?
and contracted deals that we bought for $40,000 and out in the Temple or Killeen area. We've also, 3 months later, we bought a $700,000 home out in West Austin. I mean, there's really, it just depends on how much we got going on at the time. And I think that's important to be flexible like that, because you're not going to get strikes every single time, right? Like, no, they're not going to throw a perfect strike right down the middle for you every time. By that I mean, like, you're not going to get something that's inside your buy box every other month, right? Or every month, or every other lead's not going to be right inside your buy box. So you got to be able to be flexible and see, okay, we can squeeze some juice out of this one. Maybe we should buy this and flip it. And sometimes, sometimes we try and wholesale it, and if we can't wholesale it, we'll sit back and look at it, reevaluate the numbers, and be like, hey, maybe we should close on this ourselves and just paint it, throw it back on market. Or we just try and squeeze as much juice out of every single deal that we can, and we figure out a way to make it work. So I know that doesn't give you an exact answer on what we love to see, but right now, I mean, we'll take anything we can get our hands on and make numbers work.
Yeah, I think that's the fun part about real estate though. Like having the ability to have so many options. You're kind of like a stock trader trying to figure out like the best use of funds, the best use of your time, the best use of like everything. So many variables to determine so many different options you can go. But one thing that I'm curious about for Wave is when you do determine like, hey, we've got so many flips happening, we can't really take down another one, like just a capacity issue. How do you establish? Because I get this question a lot from people interested in getting into wholesaling, relatively new, kind of struggling. But when you have a contract in hand that you know that you wouldn't be able to flip or buy and hold, for example, how are you finding buyers to take that contract off your hands and
Yeah,
get to the closing
I
table?
mean,
Can you
obviously
walk us through kind of
we
like your
market the
process of
deals to our
buying your cash buyers
established
list
buyers
or
list
building
in
your
the
cash
first
buyers
place,
list?
and then we'll market it on Facebook. There's quite a few local investment groups, Facebook investment groups here in Austin. We'll post some details there, and then just kind of work through the calls that come in and work the leads that come in that way. And then we get creative again. I know we kind of sound repetitive, but we just try and get really, really creative. We had two deals just 15 miles north of Austin that we couldn't get moved, and we knew they were deals. And Tyler just happened to call a hard money lender that he had spoken to a few months back, got him on the phone, said, hey, I got these two deals. Do you have any buyers looking, just randomly? And that guy literally sent us two buyers, and we sold those two deals within the next 48 hours to a couple of his buyers. And the hard money lender actually ended up getting to use his loan program on both those deals. So he got to make some money out of it as well. So just being creative like that, reaching out to your entire network. It's one of those things, you just got to talk real estate. Just find someone that's in the games, talk about business. I was out golfing the other day. We almost sold a lot to this builder last minute, which would have been awesome. But I mean, I just kind of mentioned the deal that we came across and that we had, and he was like, "Ooh, I've been looking for a deal in that exact area around that price point."
Yeah, I think that goes back to like a network. You have to, if you want to be successful in real estate in general, wholesaling specifically, like as you're trying to find end buyers or investors. Tyler, how important is your network to that part of the game?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, obviously, I worked with one particular investor since 2017. He's been with me for that long, and he's still flipping homes. So it's important to keep growing your network. But I think a lot has changed, right? In my opinion, as you build your list, you're gonna have people that come and go. Flipping homes is not for the weak. A lot of people come into it and then they figure out, oh, this is not what I thought it was going to be, and then they go out. So those are your one-offs that you sell, that you're advertising on Facebook, like Austin says, so that you can sell to those people. But then you have your folks that come around every 4 or 5 months, that you're repeat business. But then you have those deals where you're like, man, I don't, my repeat business is tapped. I filled that cup. I can't find a newbie investor for this deal. And then that's when I really put my thinking cap on, and that's where I came up with the idea of just hitting up a hard money lender to
Yeah.
ask for some investors. So I joke sometimes, but I'll beat a deal down until it's completely dead,
Yeah.
the point where I'm just like exhausted from it. And then I've basically convinced myself, okay, this just wasn't a deal. But if it's a deal, we can get it sold. And I'm a true believer in that. There's a buyer for every deal out there. It just depends on the price point, obviously. But you can really talk yourself out of deals here and there. You get it and you try to work it for a few days, and people are giving you the negative feedback, and
Yeah.
you're kind of getting down on yourself. But your network is so important, and to get the feedback from them. And if you're getting the same feedback, okay, then it might be something there. But I always ask myself as an investor when I'm looking at a deal, would I buy this? Like, am I pitching this like too high? Like, would I actually buy it? And what price would I buy it? So that way I can use it as leverage. If I can't sell it and I go back to the seller and say, hey, look, these are what all the investors said, including myself, and I truly believe that this is the right number. So if we can get it to this number, and sometimes we don't even have a buyer at that point, and I'll still ask for the price reduction and move forward past option, knowing that I can definitely find a buyer at this price. So we take risks like that, calculated risks.
Yeah.
Reverse searching is I wanted to mention that earlier. Reverse searching is huge as well. Getting on the MLS, finding comps, finding other buyers that have flipped homes in the neighborhood and neighboring zip codes and stuff like that, and just trying to find what LLC bought it, find their information, give them a call, and see if they want another one that's off market, or call the agent that represented the buyer and say, hey, you want to reach out to your buyer? I got an off market deal. So I mean that's huge as well, because now you're talking to actual buyers and people who are actually active in that neighborhood.
Right. Yeah, Austin, when we first started doing this, we didn't know what we didn't know at that time. Tyler, we could have used your expertise calling hard money lenders, but we would go put a pin around the property we had under contract of like zero point 0.2 miles or 2 miles, whatever, look for renovated properties, backtrack to see when it was purchased for, how much, et cetera, how long it took them in between the time it was purchased and resold it. And then we would just say, hey, hey, Tyler, you sold 123 Main Street. We actually, for 750, we saw you bought it for 3. We have 456 Main Street, but 2 blocks down. Do you want to buy it as well? And that was how we kind of first started. And then kind of going back to that know, like, and trust, your end buyers list as you're building this cash buyer list. You sell them one, and then you say, hey, I just sold Tyler 456, and I got 789 now. And then Tyler's like, oh, damn, who's this Andrew guy? He keeps bringing me deals. But then you do that with like 3 or 4 people that will get to the closing table and not back out last minute. Like that's happened to us tons of times too. And then I'll pick up the phone and say, hey, Tyler, this person just backed out last minute. Like, do you want this one? But then at that point, you trust me and the numbers are sound and the ARV value. We actually got to a point where we could sign on behalf of our developer that we did so many deals with day in and day out because they didn't need to see it or hear it from us, right? So we just go under contract on their behalf. But that takes a lot of years and many, many transactions to get to. But for those kind of like, I need to sell my deals, where do I go? That's a fantastic, really cheap way to start. Free way if you have an MLS access to build your buyers list. But what other means, Tyler? I mean, you gave us a hard money one. I've never actually heard of that, but like you're going to where investors hang out. Hard money lenders work with investors every single day. So how great is that approach?
Yeah, so there's hard money, there's reverse searching, like you said. So you find the LLC, then you look on the tax records and you find their personal name that's attached to the LLC, and then you do on white pages, and then you get their phone number, and then you call them, and then if they don't answer, guess what I'm going next? I'm going to the listing agent who listed their property and say, hey, Janet, John, I know John is your investor. Hey, I've got this one down the street. Can you call him and just put it in front of him? I'll email it to you right now. I already have their information. Then you've got Facebook, you've got groups that are within, your community that you can post deals. And then you've got investor meetups that you can go to and rub shoulders with and talk about what you're doing. Newbies are going to be there most likely. You got to vet them out. You got to make sure that they have, about $60,000, $70,000 cash. and then you connect them with a hard money lender. So you're trying to connect the dots again for these investors and hold their hand, just like I do with sellers, to get them to the finish line. What other ways do I find investors? Friends and family, I talk about what I'm doing all the time. For example, I found one of my buddies I was having a beer with and telling him what I do. And he's like, yeah, I've got $100,000 I want to invest in. Like, I don't want to put it in the stock market. Like, what can I do? Well, I've got this investor that I worked with for 7 years. He wants to buy another deal. He's a little bit of cash, low. He's low on cash. So if you provide the cash, and we just write up a little contract between you two, you can maybe make 20% in 3-4 months. He said, sounds great. So we wrote that up, found a deal, and we're about to put that on the market in 3 weeks. So
yeah, and then it goes well, and he gets hooked, and you rinse and repeat. The key thing here, guys, is for anyone listening, talk to people, tell people about it. Start to say, hey, Tyler, I know this is a good deal. Oh, it doesn't work for you. Who do you know? And then that's how you build this spider web of your network. And then you can get, if you're in a pinch, you might be able to get someone on the phone that would be able to bail you up.
Yep.
Always be talking real estate.
Yeah, always be talking about. I love talking about finance, real estate, anything to do with, strategic moves within that world. But it's just fun, I think. And if you can do it alongside people that are better than you, I think you always got to be learning and growing, So it's a never ending battle.
Very true. Well,
while
guys,
you're out walking houses too, I thought about this is stopping by other projects. When you're driving through neighborhoods, you're on your way to an appointment, something like that, on your way to meet a seller, whatever it is. If you see a flip going on, pull over. I've met a lot of investors that way. If you see a dump truck sitting in someone's driveway or a remodel going on, pull over and start talking to someone. You might meet their GC. The investor might be there. The GC might be an investor. I mean, again, it's just different. You just got to think outside the box.
Another one we had an address that came in and they didn't give us any information. So we wow, we really like the zip code. We'll just drive by. Guess what? Got an old 80-year-old man just sweeping the garage. And I'm like, that's got to be the owner. We walked right up to him. And sure enough, he was the owner. He was cleaning out his garage. The tenants just moved out and he wanted to sell. And we ended up selling it. Yeah, we call it a 20.
Always have your laptop with you because we actually contracted that deal on his recycling bin in the driveway.
Very cool. Yeah. Don't say we'll get it to you later. You do it then and now when the time is hot, because the chances of you contracting on it later or making it happen go down significantly. But yeah, I remember those days. Been there, man. Been there when I'm walking up to a house and 5 other investors are walking up to the house and you happen to get the first conversation with the right person and do it. So it's pretty exciting when that kind of stuff happens. I love that part of real estate.
It's a thrill. I kind of related to Texas Hold'em. It's I love Texas Hold'em. I love playing. It's each hand is a different prospect. You got to treat each hand differently. I've always related it to that. And sometimes you get aces and you're like, oh, off market, easy. This is great. It's an easy. And then sometimes you get aces and you get busted on the river and the seller backs out last minute and you're like, no.
But that's where you learn to appreciate the good times. And then you learn and you grow because, every day is a different story. Every day something new happens that you probably weren't aware of. And then you just problem solve and you figure it out, and then you'll be good for the next time around. Well, guys, this has been fantastic. I appreciate both of you sharing this information, hearing your backstory. If someone is in your area down in Texas, how would someone get in touch with you to talk real estate, to talk options for their home?
Yeah, we have a website you can go to. You can call us. Website is waverealtygroup.com. Super easy. But yeah, they can call us. Go to our website. We have a Facebook presence as well. They can go to our Facebook. They can go to our Instagram, Wave Realty Group. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be sure to include all of your contact information in the description of this episode as well. So any final parting ways from either of you?
No. I mean, if you need to sell a house cash, we're your people here in Austin.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Thank you again for being on the show. I had a blast this morning.
Yeah. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks, Andrew.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.